much as it pains me to say this, we are already 1/4 into the NBA season, so therefore I'm going to be doing a tier list of all 30 NBA teams. I have broken these tiers down into contenders, playoff locks, play-in, lottery teams, and capture the flag. For those who do not know what capture the flag means, it is teams that are going to be at the bottom of the barrel, as in the NBA standings, and are going to be trying to get Cooper Flag in June. So with that being said, let's get started. All right, so as you can see, we have all 30 NBA teams right here at our disposal. We are going to be talking about all 30 of them. Hopefully I don't spend too much longer, or hopefully I don't spend too long on every single team, because we don't want this video to be an hour and a half long. But we did spend 45 minutes doing 20 picks of an NBA mock draft, so that's going to be very interesting, and it's going to be very interesting to see who watches my rants about some of these prospects. But we, as I said earlier in the video, have contenders, playoff locks, play-in, lottery, and capture the flag. So we will be starting with the Philadelphia 76ers, and I have them in the play-in category. Yes, I have the Philadelphia 76ers in the play-in category. Now let's talk about why I have the Philadelphia 76ers in the playoff category. They have been riddled with injuries. Now, before we get to the bright sides, I do want to say Joel Embiid has played a few games this season. Paul George has played a few games. Tyrese Maxey has played a few games. But when they do play together, Joel Embiid still looks hobbled. Paul George has been very inefficient this season. He played very well against the Charlotte Hornets the other day, but once again, that's the Charlotte Hornets with no Trey Mann, no LaMelo Ball. The Charlotte Hornets are one of the worst teams in the league without LaMelo Ball. But I think the Philadelphia 76ers are going to figure it out. I do think there's going to be a stretch where they go maybe 25-8, and they play really well for them to maybe catch up into that 7th seed or 6th seed. Mind you, we're already a 4th into the season, and the Philadelphia 76ers have not been able to be healthy consistently for a stretch of period to give them the chance to make it to the playoffs. So once again, I don't think we're in an area to really push towards just trying to get your pick, because I think they have a 1 through 6 protected pick this season. So that's going to be very interesting to see how they play that. But fully healthy, this is a really good team. Fully healthy, this is a really good team. And I would say they are a top 5 seed in the Eastern Conference, but right now they just have not been healthy. You know, Joel Embiid has not looked like himself. Tyrese Maxey has been in and out of the lineup, and Paul George has been very inconsistent. So while I do think there's going to be a stretch where that comes, but as of right now, I don't see them being a playoff lock. I can more see them in a play-in scenario. Up next, we have the Washington Wizards, who have been really bad this season. They had 3 wins this season, and 3 of those wins go to the Atlanta Hawks and the Denver Nuggets, where they got extremely hot from 3 against the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets also helped them a lot by playing 0 defense, and then they got extremely hot against the Atlanta Hawks. So I do think this team is really bad. Alex Sarr has shown some signs defensively. Bilal Coulibaly continues to be their best player. Jordan Poole has these really hot nights where he just goes out and scores 39 like he did the other night. Just being able to be an excellent shot creator and shooter. But once again, this Washington Wizards team, they're the worst in the league. And I think I kind of gave them too much respect by saying they were going to be the 2nd worst team in the league, because I thought Brooklyn was going to be the worst team in the league. But they still have a chance to make this up. The Nets still have a chance to prove me right. I don't think they have Cam Thomas for the next month or so, but we'll get to the Brooklyn Nets in a second. The Washington Wizards should have a lot to move over the trade deadline, whether it's a Corey Kispert or a Jonas Valanciunas or a Malcolm Brogdon. Those guys are going to be on the market, because right now the Wizards are trying to tank as much as they possibly can, and they're in the capture the flag race. This is going to be the first team that makes it to the capture the flag race. Now, for the Atlanta Hawks. The Atlanta Hawks is a team that I love to watch personally. Even though Trae Young has been extremely inefficient this season, you could say he's been a top 3 passer this season. And with the way that Dyson Daniels has played next to Trae Young, and Jalen Johnson has been the 2nd star for them, and Zachary Reese-Shea has been very good defensively, and DeAndre Hunter is having a career year, you could say this Hawks team can make a play-in. And it's so exciting to watch, because this is a team that beat the Boston Celtics without Trae Young, beat the Cleveland Cavaliers twice. They beat the Lakers. They beat the Knicks this season. They beat the Kings. They have beaten really good teams. They beat the Milwaukee Bucks. And I think Trae Young has really given this team an opportunity to win. And I love what Jalen Johnson is doing, the offensive rebounding, the decision making, running in transition, 37% on catch and shoot, 3-pointers this season. So he's been respectable from three. And if you're a team like the Atlanta Hawks with no first round pick, or you do not own your first round pick, you do have the Lakers first round pick. And I think you have a Milwaukee Bucks first round pick coming to you in the future. So this is probably the best you could ask for. I think they're 13-11 or maybe 13-12 because they just lost to the Denver Nuggets. And this is pretty much the best you can ask for in the Eastern Conference, where you're not going to need to win a lot of games to get into the play-in. Let's not get it messed up. And with the defense that they have been able to provide this season with their lengthy athletic wings, guys like Jalen Johnson, Reece Shea, DeAndre Hunter, Dyson Daniels, who's been one of the best perimeter defensive players all year. And now you have, or not now you have, but you have one of the better players or best players offensively in the league in Trae Young. And you have to lean your hat on he's going to figure it out. You have to believe that Trae Young is going to figure it out with his shooting. But this team is really intriguing. This team is really intriguing to where they're not far off from being a legitimate playoff team. Maybe a few moves. I think this draft is really deep to where you can get a guy that can contribute and turn into something that even further helps your case as a playoff team. And for my Atlanta Hawks fans watching, what are you guys doing with DeAndre Hunter now that he is having this career year? And whether you think this is long-term or maybe he's just on a hot streak, do you move him and get some assets back? Do you move Clint Capella and get some assets back? Do you move Larry Nance Jr. and get some assets back and really see what you can do to further improve this team? Now, you do not have the draft capital, but once again, I think this team is good enough to make a plan and maybe sneak their way in the playoffs as a 7th seed or an 8th seed. So I'm going to be putting the Atlanta Hawks at the play-in tier right next to the Philadelphia 76ers. For the Atlanta Hawks, this is really good. For the Philadelphia 76ers, this is really bad. The Sixers want to be up here, but instead, they're down here. And it's kind of repetitive with the Philadelphia 76ers. Every year, it's like, hey, man, if Embiid can be healthy, and he just has not been this season, and it's really hard. It's really hard to watch. It's really hard to watch somebody who's so good just not be able to consistently stay on the floor. So that is tough for the Philadelphia 76ers. Up next, we have the Cleveland Cavaliers, who are currently 17-4, just lost to the Miami Heat. I did not watch that game. I had work today, and I had the Hoop Talk podcast with me and Mars. Shout out to the Hoop Talk podcast. If you guys want to watch weekly episodes every Sunday on the Hoop Talk podcast, make sure you go over there over Mars Talk Sports YouTube channel, and we do that every single week. Anyway, the Cleveland Cavaliers have been one of the better defensive teams in the league, and they have been one of the better offensive teams in the league. Now, the offense has kind of slowed down just a little bit, and the defense has kind of slowed down just a little bit, but I believe in their vision. You know, I was somebody who said, move off Jared Allen, play Evan Mobley at the 5, but the way Evan Mobley has really taken a step up offensively, it makes you want to believe in this Cleveland Cavaliers team even more offensively. The way Evan Mobley has been able to grab rebounds and get out in transition. The way he's been able to run inverted pick and rolls. He's 9 of 13 in his past 2 games from the 3-point line. I disregarded the game against the Heat tonight because he only played 11 minutes. So if you can get a league average shooter in Evan Mobley with the decision making he's made a jump in, the ball handling he's been able to have in the half court, which is something we've seen a very big improve over the past season. Donovan Mitchell is still that 1A type of player. Darius Garland has played at an all-star level. So has Jared Allen. So has Donovan Mitchell. And so has Evan Mobley. And with the depth that this Cleveland Cavaliers team has with Isaac Okoro, Dean Wade, Sam Morrell, Ty Jerome, this Cavs team can be really dangerous, and they have the matchup to where they can beat any team outside of Boston in the East. I truly believe that. They can be in the Eastern Conference Finals and maybe even take Boston to 6 games with having Evan Mobley and Jared Allen, who are so versatile defensively. Evan Mobley guards on the perimeter very well. He's a fantastic rim protector. He's a fantastic post defender. And Jared Allen also moves really well against wings on the perimeter. This Cleveland Cavaliers team, I'm going to put in the contender tier. I'm going to put them in the contender tier. Now, do I think they're heavy contenders? No. But I do think they can make an Eastern Conference Finals. There's probably only going to be 4 teams in this contenders tier. Only 4. And you may know who those 4 teams are. And Cleveland is not the team I thought was going to be in this tier early. Anyway, the Detroit Pistons. They've made a lot of improvements with having JB Bickerstaff as their new head coach. Their defense has obviously improved, and Cade Cunningham has taken a jump in his assist and playmaking and decision making. Now, I do think he plays phenomenal in the in between game, whether it's working out of the pick and roll or just being an ISO creator in the mid range. Solid mid range shooter, solid 3-point shooter. Once again, great off the pick and roll. He's added a jump hook to his game, which has been very phenomenal. This team, it's not going to be a good team, but they've definitely made a huge improvement. They're 10-12 at the moment, or maybe 10-15. I think they're 10-15, but they're already almost 4 games away from kind of breaking past their total wins last year, which is what you really can ask for if you're a Detroit Pistons fan. Cade Cunningham is taking that jump. His rim finishing has still been very questionable. I think some of it is just the lack of athleticism, but Cade Cunningham has been very good for them. Ron Holland is a great rookie. You're gonna get Ausar Thompson back. I don't know how much longer Jalen Duren is going to be the starting center for this team, but Jaden Ivey is also taking a jump. And instead of capture the flag like the Detroit Pistons have been in the past 3 or 4 seasons, you now move up to the lottery, which is clap it up. Clap it up for Detroit Pistons fans, man. Anyway, the Indiana Pacers. Ooh, I got a lot to talk about with them. They are going to be in the play-in. The Indiana Pacers have been very disappointing this season. And when we look at the Indiana Pacers, it's Tyrese Halliburton who's been very disappointing this season. And I think Tyrese Halliburton's averaging about 17 points per game, 8.5 assists. He's been extremely inefficient. And it's tough for a guy like Tyrese Halliburton to really build up that efficiency when you're not really taking shots inside the arc. Tyrese Halliburton has thrived on transition play and up-tempo, and the Pacers have always been one of the best transition teams in the league, and they've kind of fallen into the middle of the pack. And the more you make Tyrese Halliburton work in the half court, is the more you're going to succeed against this Pacers team. This Pacers team has been a top offense in the league maybe over the past 2 seasons. And Tyrese Halliburton has been the main catalyst of that, being able to get his team in transition and get them open shots around the perimeter and really play off ball on top of being a great playmaker. And now it's just falling to shit, like, if you want to be completely honest. And this team is already not a good defensive team. Pascal Siakam has been fine. Aaron Nesmith has been fine. Benedict Mathurin has been fine. Miles Turner has been fine. I don't think this Indiana Pacers team has a chance of really making the playoffs unless Tyrese Halliburton becomes what we think he can be. And I'm not one of those guys who took that stretch he had early last season and really ran with it. I knew Tyrese Halliburton was a top 10 point guard. I had him at number 7, but the way he's playing right now, he's one of the most inefficient players or scorers at volume in the entire NBA. And once again, his struggle in the half court, which is something that is known, is relevant, and teams focusing on that and limiting those transition buckets and limiting those transition attempts, it's really hurt him. So the Indiana Pacers are going to be at the play-in spot. Now for the Milwaukee Bucks, who have ramped it up a lot. I'm going to have them as a playoff lock, and they just lost to the Boston Celtics. But when you look at this team, they have gotten a lot better. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo is having his best offensive season of his career, on top of him just being a dominant transition player, a dominant player within 0 to 3 feet. He's always getting better as a playmaker, and now he adds that mid-range shooting to his game. You just got Chris Middleton back, and I think he played well for his circumstances, as in coming back and not playing basketball since maybe late May, early June. Over the last 10 to 12 games, the offense and defense has been top 12. The defense has gotten a lot better. Damian Lillard is showing a lot more engagement on that side of the ball, and it's funny to say that, even though the Boston Celtics religiously attacked him when they came to Boston and they played. But I think Andre Jackson has been really good. I think AJ Green has been really good defensively. Also think Giannis has been playing solid defensively and just being the offensive hub for this team. And I think Milwaukee is going to be a playoff lock. I think they're going to be a playoff lock. I think they found their way back into the Eastern Conference race, and I think they're going to stay there. So shout out to the Milwaukee Bucks. Up next for the Toronto Raptors. I think the Toronto Raptors have a lot to figure out, and I really don't think Scotty Barnes is a number one. Shout out to Pinsar Basketball. I know I probably just upset him, but I don't know, man. I think Scotty Barnes is a number two in a very good situation, and I think the better the Toronto Raptors get, the less of a chance they have of getting that real number one, because Scotty Barnes does a lot of things well. He passes the ball. His playmaking is very good. His finishing around the rim is very good. His rebounding, his defense. But I don't think the shooting is consistent enough. I just don't think the scoring is consistent enough to consider this guy a number one on a really good team. But they have been extremely competitive this season, so I'm just going to keep the Raptors right in the lottery. As for the Dallas Mavericks, yes, I do. Now, the Dallas Mavericks have been struggling this season. And when you look at the early stretch of the year where they lost like 4 games straight and the total was a negative 8-point differential, where they lost by 2 to the Suns. They lost by 2 to the Jazz. They lost by 3 to the Denver Nuggets, and they lost by 1 to one other team. But it was a 4-game stretch where they just could not close it out in clutch scenarios, and all these close games, which they could have won, they lost. And a lot of the conversation around that was Luka's defense, which I don't think was as big as a concern as his offense. I think when you have a Dallas Mavericks team who was second in clutch win percentage, only behind the Los Angeles Lakers last season, and they started out the year 1-6 in clutch games, that was really concerning. And I think them not having really a set action or a set play to go to in those clutch time scenarios really hindered that. But now Luka Doncic is playing back to his MVP caliber level. Kyrie Irving has been phenomenal this season. Quentin Grimes, Najee Marshall, Spencer Dinwiddie, PJ Washington, Derek Lively, Daniel Gafford, all these guys are stepping up. And these are a lot of guys who are perfect for their role. They have a deep team. And Dallas's defense is always going to be respected. Jason Kidd is a phenomenal defensive mind. And you have one of the best offensive players in the league in Luka Doncic and Kyrie Irving, to where I can see them being the second seed in the Western Conference for the remainder of the season. So, big ups to the Dallas Mavericks. As for the Denver Nuggets, this is literally because of Nikola Jokic. Nikola Jokic being the best player in the NBA. Because when we look at this Denver Nuggets team, there are still a lot of guys who just simply aren't ready. Julian Strawther, I believe, is going to become a great player, but I don't believe he's ready. Peyton Watson, I don't believe he's ready. Christian Brown has been playing solid this season at the starting shooting guard position, but I think the inefficiencies defensively has been evident these past few games. I think without having Nikola Jokic on the floor, this Denver Nuggets team has been really bad. They do not have a good backup center. Their bench has always been a question from the very first game of the season. And we're starting to see it more and more. This is also a team that just doesn't get shots up beyond the arc. I think they're second or bottom 3 in the NBA in 3-point attempts per game, only at about 30 a game. And when they're losing the 3-point battle, they're just going to lose. It's as simple as that, because Denver does not get up threes. And I think Denver last season had a moment in the game where they just get whatever they want and you cannot do anything about it. And it really made up for the 3-point attempts that they were lacking. This season, I don't think they have that. And that could be due to Jamal Murray being very inconsistent and just not being good. He's been bad defensively, and he's been very inconsistent on offense. So I don't think you can hang your hat on that if you're Denver like you used to. So I'm going to put them in a playoff lock, but I don't think they are contenders. I do not think they are contenders. Up next, we have the Memphis Grizzlies. Now, I'm going to put them in a playoff lock. I don't think they are contenders just yet. I think Jaren Jackson has moved me. I was kind of sleeping on him to start the season, but his shot creating, his rim pressure, his touch around the rim have all gotten a lot better. On top of him being phenomenal defensively, Jaren Jackson has moved me. And you have Desmond Bain, and you have John Morant, and Santi Aldama is now having the best season of his career. Zach Edey, when he comes back, is going to be an X factor. Guys like Jay Huff has been playing well. Guys like Jalen Wells. These guys are extremely deep. And mind you, this has probably been one of the most injured teams in the league this season. So the fact that they are still top 4 in the Western Conference throughout all the injuries they've been going through is just a testament to their coaching, their defense, their heart, their tenacity, game in and game out, with John Morant just taking an extreme jump in his playmaking. Now, the scoring is something that you would want to see upped a little bit more. I think right now he's averaging about 21 points per game, but this Memphis Grizzlies team is really good. Now, as for the Minnesota Timberwolves, they are on a 4-game win streak, and part of me wants to put them in a playoff lock scenario. I think they're starting to figure out what could really help them. I think they really want to avoid another 2022 year where they spend the entire season trying to figure out how Cat and Gobert can work. Now, Julius Randle over the past few games has been defending a lot better. Anthony Edwards has said it, and I'm not buying into that. I'm not buying into the Julius Randle is now finally locked in. He's finally engaged, and he's going to start playing better, and his attitude is going to change. And no, we have to really consider who Julius Randle really is. But this Minnesota Timberwolves team is still a phenomenal defensive team. I wouldn't say phenomenal. I would say maybe a one of the better defensive teams in the league. And I think they've taken that step back defensively because losing Cat kind of took away what makes Rudy Gobert so great as a defender, which is the help defense. And I've been talking about this all season. But now that Rudy is guarding centers much more often instead of being stuck onto the non-shooter in the opposing lineup and being able to roam around the paint and get block shots and disrupt pick and rolls and disrupt cuts to the basket and disrupt post-ups, now he has to guard these centers one-on-one because Julius Randle cannot do that. And it makes the defense worse. But I still think if Minnesota can strike the right matchup in a round 1 scenario as a 6th seed, as a 5th seed, they can win a series. But I don't think they have that Western Conference Finals run in them again without Karl Anthony Towns. And the three-point shooting has been disgusting. I think Anthony Edwards alone is what's making this team a decent three-point shooting team. So it's going to be very ugly in a playoff scenario, but I think they're going to hang their hat on their defense and Anthony Edwards just being the ascending young talent that he is. Up next, the San Antonio Spurs. I have them in play-in. Right now, I think the Spurs are playing really well, and I would say they've been playing better than expected. I still do not think this team has been great, but with Victor Wembanyama playing at the level that he is playing and Stephon Castle being one of the better rookies in the league, currently in the Rookie of the Year race, I will put the Spurs in a play-in category. So the Spurs, I'm tripping. The Spurs are going to be in a play-in category next to the Pacers, Hawks, and the 76ers. Up next, the Utah Jazz. I'm going to put them in the capture the flag race. They have been one of the worst teams in the league, and I'm sure they're going to stay that way all season. But the Los Angeles Clippers, I'm going to put them in a play-in category. I think this team with James Harden has been very good, and I think James Harden is one of the better floor raisers in the league. I saw this on the Numbers on the Board podcast where Kenny Beecham and the guys were talking about how James Harden is one of those guys who can just floor raise a team, and the way he's been orchestrating this offense and having one of the better defenses he's had, or having one of the better defensive teams this Clippers team has been very impressive. Chris Dunn has been phenomenal defensively. Derrick Jones Jr. is going to bring that level of defense, and they don't even have Kawhi back yet. So I think that's going to be very good for them. As for the Suns, I want to put them in playoff lock, and I think I'm going to put them in playoff lock. If I have the Timberwolves here, I have to have the Suns here. They have been very concerning just because of the injuries of Kevin Durant, but when he is healthy, I believe this is one of the better teams in the West, and I think Kevin Durant orchestrates a lot of very good offense for the Phoenix Suns, so he's going to be here. For the Portland Trailblazers, I'm going to have them in the capture the flag race. They have some very intriguing pieces, though. Guys like Shaden Sharp, guys like Donovan Clingan. They also have assets that can move. DeAndre Ayton, Anthony Simons, Robert Williams. How many of those guys, Jeremy Grant, are getting moved at the deadline? We don't know. Scoot Henderson has still been a little underwhelming, even though he has been playing slightly better this season. I still don't know if they're going to really exit this capture the flag stage yet. I don't think they're ready. As for the Sacramento Kings, I'm going to put them in the play-in. Now, they aren't in the play-in currently, but they just have so much talent to the point where I can believe that they make a play-in push. I just think the fact that they are really struggling in these clutch game scenarios. I believe they're like 3-5. I don't know if I'm reading the wrong stat, or I don't know if I looked at the wrong team, but that's one thing. I think Domantas Sabonis as a defensive center has not helped either. So I don't know. It's a tough West, so who knows? But I think they can be in a playing spot as of right now. And as for the New York Knicks, I'm going to put them at a playoff lock. I think their offense has been phenomenal, especially with their injuries to Mitchell Robinson. I think once he comes back, the defense is going to start to shore up as well. I think Karl Anthony Towns is having one of his best seasons. Jalen Brunson is going to be Jalen Brunson. And with the spacing that they provide with Josh Hart, OG Anunoby, and Mikal Bridges, it really gives Karl Anthony Towns more space to operate. And he's been probably one of his best offensive seasons so far. The driving lanes have been a lot more open for him. The three-pointer is always going to fall as Karl Anthony Towns. So this team is really good. Up next for the New Orleans Pelicans, I think they're going to be a lottery team. I just think there's too much injuries going on for them to really be a contending team or a play-in team this season. As a matter of fact, I'm going to move them down to capture the flag because they have a 1-4 protected pick, and if they don't get that, I think it goes to the Hawks, I believe. I think it goes to the Hawks. I'm not 100% sure, but injury-riddled. Be as bad as you possibly can. Get a top 4 pick. Get somebody that can really help out this team, and we move forward. Up next, the Charlotte Hornets are also going to be in a capture the flag scenario. I thought they were going to be a play-in team this year, but now the injury to LaMelo Ball, Trey Mann, they've been running with Taj Gibson as their starting center for way too long this season than you would want it to. So I think they're probably going to go all in on trying to get the highest pick possible, and that's why they're in the capture the flag sweepstakes. The Houston Rockets are going to be a playoff lock. I think they've been really impressive this year, and they've been surprising but not surprising at the same time. This is something I talked about on the Hoop Talk podcast, where the reason they're good is what you could have predicted. Their defense is top 5 in the NBA. Tari Eason and Amen Thompson have been phenomenal off the bench. Alperen Sengun has been Alperen Sengun outside of being a little inefficient. The only thing you would be worried about, honestly, is Jalen Green and the jump he was supposed to take this season, and he has been extremely inefficient. His shooting has been bad. The defense has been bad as well. So I don't know. Maybe we get a stretch from Jalen Green where he's just playing extremely well and he carries that out throughout the rest of the season. But I don't know. I think they're a playoff lock. I don't think I can put them in contenders, but I think they're a good enough defense to where they don't fall all the way to the play-in. I think they can be a top 6 seed this season. As for the Miami Heat, they're going to be a play-in team. Bam Adebayo has been extremely underwhelming, and if it wasn't for the play of Tyler Hero recently, I probably have them in the lottery. The Chicago Bulls, they're going to be a lottery team. I do like how Zach LaVine and Nikola Vucevic have been playing, so those guys are going to be movable assets. And once those guys are moved, they could probably fall into the capture the flag race, but I think lottery for them right now is perfectly fine. The Brooklyn Nets, I'm going to put them in the capture the flag race as well. We're starting to see the trade conversations ramp up a little bit with Cam Thomas and Dorian Finney-Smith, Ben Simmons, Cam Johnson, and now that Cam Thomas is going to be out for a month, I believe that this team is going to take a really bad turn, and they're probably going to be in the capture the flag sweepstakes. Up next, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, contenders. The Oklahoma City Thunder are currently a top 10 offense and defense. They're the best defense in the league, and that's without Chet Holmgren. Jalen Williams is a for sure all-star this season. I don't know how you can deny him an all-star spot this season. He's been phenomenal defensively. He's been extremely efficient. SGA is the MVP caliber player that we wanted. And this team is extremely deep, man, with guys like Isaiah Joe, Cason Wallace, Aaron Wiggins, Alex Caruso, Lou Dort. There's so much that's been said about OKC that I really don't need to repeat. The Oklahoma City Thunder are contenders. As for the Golden State Warriors, I'm going to put them in my playing category as well. We just got recent news that Draymond Green is now coming off the bench for Jonathan Kuminga, which we all know what this is for. A few days ago, Shams Charania confirmed that the Golden State Warriors are going to be trying to bring in a second star, which is something that we thought the Golden State Warriors would need coming into this season next to Steph Curry, because we just don't believe Steph Curry is really able to lead a top 6 team anymore without a second star. So I don't necessarily know if benching Draymond is the way to go, because you're still trying to win games while you try and bring in an active star. But I think Jonathan Kuminga is their best trade asset. So they really want to show the rest of the league that he is a talent that you would give up your star for. So I understand that. Don't understand benching Draymond, but it is what it is. As for the Boston Celtics, I don't want to glaze here, but they're going to be at the front of the contenders list. I think the Boston Celtics are still the favorite to win the NBA championship. And once again, watching small ball with Kenny Beecham, once again, it's boring talking about teams that meet expectation. The Boston Celtics prove time and time again that they are the best team in the league, because they're in the past few years, I don't think I've seen a team with a better roster construction, but on top of that, have a scheme that fits the roster construction so well. You have a bunch of defenders who are really good on ball, really good off ball, hit a lot of threes. You have guys who come off the bench who defend really well, hit a lot of threes. So the numbers game is almost never going to work with Boston, because things like offensive rebounding and getting turnovers, the Celtics take care of the ball. The Celtics also rebound. They hit threes at a high level. I just don't think you're going to be able to beat the Boston Celtics when they're shooting 50 threes a game. And then there's going to be a night where they're shooting 45% from three, and then there's really nothing you can do. Jason Tatum has been a top 6 player in the NBA this season, and it's been really fun to watch. Jaylen Brown being the best number 2 he can possibly be. The Boston Celtics are going to win another championship, and hopefully Jason Tatum wins Finals MVP so you guys can shut up. The Los Angeles Lakers, I've had my rant on the Los Angeles Lakers multiple times this season. It sucks. It really sucks, because we always get this unfair narrative that the Lakers can contend for a championship, and I don't think they've been that same team. You know, I wouldn't necessarily call them championship contenders in the 2023 season either, but we got a lot of favorable matchups in the playoffs, and we ended up going to the conference finals. So now, every season coming into it, what team outside of Denver can really beat Los Angeles? You know, because we haven't lost to anybody but Denver. But I think last season, if we would have saw the Timberwolves in a 7-game series, we probably would have lost. Against OKC, we probably would have lost. Against Dallas, we probably would have lost 9 times out of 10. So when we see this, they're like, the Lakers can go on a run. No, we cannot. Our roster construction is awful. We're probably going to be the worst constructed playoff team in the West. The defensive scheme is awful. The three-point shooting, the spacing is not good. LeBron James has not been as good as you would think, which is understandable. He's 40, but when LeBron James has been playing at a certain level his entire career, you kind of just go into the season expecting him to play at that level, and he just has not. And last but not least, the Orlando Magic, who just lost Franz Wagner. This is going to be a very hard offense to watch. They just went against somebody last night. I'm forgetting who they went against, but it sucks because this team looked really good. Franz Wagner was playing at an all-time level, not an all-time level, but a career high level for himself. Paolo Banchero was also playing really well before he went down. So now no Franz Wagner, no Paolo Banchero. This offense is going to be really hard to watch. It's really going to be hard to watch. And I'm going to watch a couple of Orlando Magic games, but as of right now, without Franz, without Paolo, I think they're going to lose a lot of games coming up, so I have to put them in the play-in category. It sucks. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was my tier list ranking for 1/4 throughout the NBA season, all 30 NBA teams. Let me know what you guys agree with. Let me know what you guys disagree with. Make sure you put them in the comments. And if you guys like this type of content, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. And as always, I will see you guys tomorrow. Peace.